Welcome back to the Two Deep NFL podcast. With you as always, Jeff Chadiha from the NFL Network, Eric Eager from Sumer Sports, Soren Petro from Sports Radio 810 WHB in Kansas City, and time to talk some NFL football. The playoffs are alive. The divisional playoffs, my favorite round of playoffs. We get all the good teams. We get the best quarter of the NFL all going at it here in this round. We'll talk about Mike McCarthy and his future in Dallas. Should there be one? Should he be done in Dallas? Is it official that Jordan Love is a franchise quarterback? Is it official that Tua Tagovailoa is not a franchise quarterback? Will the Texans Cinderella story continue? How far can Jeff Chadiha's Detroit Lions actually go? Let's talk a little bit about what's going on with Josh Allen after no turnovers versus the Steelers. Does it mean he's finally licked the turnover bug? Should Nick Sirianni be out in Philadelphia? Who are the top 5 head coaching candidates? We'll all give our top 5 list. What are we looking for in this NFL divisional round of the playoffs? We talk about it all right now on the Two Deep NFL podcast.
You're listening to the Two Deep Podcast, the most complete analysis of the National Football League, breaking down the NFL like no one else can. Two Deep is hosted by Jeff Chadiha, Eric Eager, and Soren Petro. Jeff Chadiha is a senior columnist and on-air personality for the NFL Network and NFL.com. Eric Eager is the vice president of research and development for Sumer Sports. Soren Petro was the afternoon drive host of the program on Sports Radio 810 WHB in Kansas City. Two Deep is proudly brought to you by Gann Asphalt and Concrete, Kansas City's nationally recognized full-service paving and pavement maintenance contractor, making parking lot problems disappear since 1994. Free consultations, no commissions, in-house crews, and every project comes with a written warranty. Find them online at GannAsphalt.com or call 816-484-3338. Gann Asphalt and Concrete. One contractor, all things parking lot. Now, here are the hosts of the Two Deep Football Podcast, Jeff Chadiha, Eric Eager, and Soren Petro.
That's right. We're back at it here on the Two Deep NFL Podcast, NFL playoff football going. We've eliminated the commercial fillers. It's now time for the big boys to get it on, the divisional round of the playoffs. And there will be, to the chagrin of, I think, every national network, I don't know what percentage of the time Jeff was dedicated on Monday to talking about the fact that the Dallas Cowboys were not going to be advanced and whether or not Mike McCarthy should still have a job. I mean, that is, without a doubt, it dominated one of your former employers, ESPN, all day. How much did it dominate NFL Network?
Well, I'm not sure because I wasn't watching that closely, but I feel like it rivaled the January 6th Capitol riot coverage. Yeah, I think it came pretty close to surpassing that, didn't it, in terms of all the storylines happening in Dallas. I get up, like the whole show was about the Cowboys.
Jordan Love put his feet up on the Dallas defense.
So, look, that's what happens when Dallas has controversy. It sells, right? But yeah, I think we can all agree nobody saw that outcome coming. I think Eric felt good about the Packers, thought it could happen, but the way they lost that game so epically, it was I don't think I've ever watched a game like that. Maybe the closest I came, and Eric could appreciate this, 2000 NFC Championship game, Minnesota Vikings at the New York Giants getting rolled. What was it, 51-3?
The Vikings were a point favorite on the road against Kerry Collins. Randy Moss throwing a fit because he couldn't bring his posse on the field. Dennis Green waddling around that field, the most confident man in the world, and they lose 41-0.
Yeah. That's as close as it came. But yeah, to me, and I like Mike McCarthy a lot. I've known him for 15, 20 years since he was a coordinator in San Francisco back with Alex Smith. I think he's coached his last game with the Cowboys. I don't know how you can lay that big of an egg. I mean, they cut to Jerry Jones, like literally everybody was just moving away from him. And his son was on his phone the whole time, acting like he wasn't even paying attention to his when Jerry Jones comes out and says, this was beyond my comprehension, somebody's head is getting chopped off pretty soon.
Yeah. By the way, I love this. Petro, I'm here for your Dak takes. Here's one from Jason. Dak will always suck. I don't think he sucks. I've never said he sucks. Let's be clear. I've never said he sucks. Mike McCarthy, should he be gone in Dallas? Will he be gone in Dallas, Eric?
I think he will. I don't think the problems the other day were Mike McCarthy, though, right? Like
what?
Like
a game plan?
Is it Mike McCarthy's fault Dan Quinn doesn't know how to coach against the Shanahan tree?
It's his boss. He had to sign off on it, didn't he?
But Dan Quinn's getting like Dan Quinn until last week was dead ass getting like comp to the Seahawks, and he was beating away head coaching jobs at Denver and Arizona and places like that last year. Dan Quinn deserves much, right? Are we not? I mean, I get it. It's embarrassing to go 12 wins, 3 straight years and never make a conference championship, but you didn't win 12 games 3 straight years. So I think that, yes, they probably need a new voice, but I like Dak's management too. And you threw some pretty bad interceptions at some pretty bad times.
Listen, I don't hate Dak Prescott. I think he's a fine quarterback. I'll state again what I've said many, many times. He's much more Alex Smith than he is Patrick Mahomes. And he's being paid like Patrick Mahomes. And that makes it difficult to put a roster together. Now, they have a lot of Pro Bowlers. Are they stars and Jags? Like they could use more depth, maybe to a degree. I do think the Jones family, mostly Jones' son, Steven, I think is the one who does the personnel, is an underrated personnel director, right? I mean, they always seem to have plenty of Pro Bowlers, and yet everybody snickers about, who calls the personnel shots. So there is good personnel there. That's somewhat of an indictment on Mike McCarthy not handling the personnel, but Packers went up and down the field. Like Dan Quinn is Jerry's guy. Like now this is part of it. That's why I don't think Belichick to the Cowboys could ever possibly work. I think Jerry would have to pay him $35 million or some ridiculous amount to where he's like, I can buy the biggest boat that I've ever wanted in 2 years. Okay, I'll do this. But I don't think it's going to work because like Dan Quinn is the problem. And in Dan Quinn's, he's not even the problem. Let me put it this way. Dan Quinn deserves as much or more blame than anyone for this game, right? The Packers went up and down the field. Matt LaFleur pantsed Dan Quinn. And the idea that anybody would be looking at Dan Quinn for a head coaching job right now is comedic. Seattle might go down that road, but it's comedic. But Dak Prescott, the Chiefs won one playoff game with Alex Smith. One. Like, why are you shocked that it's any different with Dak Prescott? Right? Like, I don't understand why people, because it's the Cowboys, I guess that's supposed to make it different. But Dak Prescott has never been able to get it done when he's really got to get it done. Like he's a front runner, which most good quarterbacks are. They play from in front. Everything's at their disposal. They can do it. But I mean, I think you see the difference between, like, I think it's amazing the difference between Dak Prescott and CJ Stroud. CJ Stroud's making those off-platform throws, falling away from defenders, and dropping the ball in there. Dak Prescott can't do that. He is what he is. And so thinking he's going to pick it up and carry you is just, it's fool's gold. I don't understand what you thought Mike McCarthy or what you think any offensive coordinator is going to come in and do with Dak Prescott.
So you think McCarthy
you're going to be good. You're not going to be great.
So you think McCarthy should stay?
Who are you going to hire?
That's Vrabel. I mean, there's a lot of guys out there right now.
Well, but can I pause
who's going to be better?
That's a loaded question.
Name your candidate who will be better.
Here's the issue, though. Like, let's talk about what will happen, though. He's done this before, right? Like, they had Parcells in that building like a decade and a half ago. So this is, and what did Dallas do this year? Dallas put Jimmy Johnson in the Ring of Honor, right? Which means that Jerry is having some self-reflection, right? He's looking right here and being like, when was the last time this team was actually good? And it was when I was able to put my ego aside and give a little bit of power, right? Or the reason this team has become what it's become is because I couldn't, right? When it was Jimmy Johnson. Like, I do think that there's a little bit of now they just gave Will McClay a raise, right, to make sure that he wasn't a GM. So maybe I'm talking out both sides of my mouth, but I do think that a little bit of Jerry is like, I think there is a better than zero chance they go with Belichick. I'll just say
that. Better than zero.
Like,
that's a bold statement.
Yeah, I mean, like, but you said like it's not going to work. Like, I think that,
I will stand by that. It absolutely will not work.
So, Eric, you're saying there's a chance, Belichick? Is that what you're saying?
Yeah, I'm saying that the events of this year, which is like putting Jimmy Johnson in the Hall of Fame for them. You know, like looking back and like, you know, being more reflective, all that kind of stuff. You know, the fact that he has taken a swing on a Parcells before, he has put that kind of big personality, ego, Hall of Fame guy in the building before. Like, I do think that there is a chance he comes, right?
I think not to cut you off, I think that you have to keep in mind Belichick's agenda, which is to be the winningest coach of all time, right? That he can get there a lot faster with that roster. And as Eric said,
as opposed to the Falcons, yeah.
Yeah. And with the talent's there. Like, I agree with you. I think culturally, Belichick would have to adjust, and maybe he couldn't do that. But I imagine that's got to be intriguing to him. Like, Dak Prescott, you know, somebody wanted my opinion on Dak. I think Dak Prescott is a really good quarterback. He's not an elite quarterback. He's not in the same class as Patrick Mahomes or Lamar Jackson or Josh Allen, those young guys, other young guys. But he is a quarterback that if you put enough around him and you coach him well, he can win a championship. And Jerry was willing to defer some to Bill Parcells when he showed up. Didn't work out in the end because Terrell Owens was thrown in the middle of all that stuff. But it's still, if you want to win a championship, I'm sorry, man. Mike McCarthy, I like Mike a lot, but you've had three shots at this, 12 wins and one playoff win in the last 3 years. That's not good enough.
So what happens with Bill Belichick comes in? Like what do we think? Like, Dak Prescott suddenly gets it because Bill Belichick's there?
Well, I think that this team becomes more matchup proof, right? They get rolled when they play the Niners every freaking time, right? And so every single year when they go 12-5, every one of them is puckered up over the fact that they're still going to lose 42-10 to the Niners in the conference championship game, right? Like, because they still have deficiencies. Mike McCarthy still can't tune a clock to save his life, right? And not that Bill can, but like, I think they become more matchup proof on the defensive side for sure. And I think Dak, that's going to be the one thing is Bill can't draft to save his life, but Will McClay, I mean, you can call the Cowboys and Jerry Jones, you can call them a joke all you want, but you can look at the drafts the last 10 years and they slay the draft. So
here's what I'll also say about
I don't know if you were listening, but nobody called. We said that they're underrated in their personnel. Like, personnel's there. That's not the problem.
But I think Bill comes in. I think Bill comes in and does what he does. And does he try to overstep? Yeah, there's a ton of friction, but there's a ton of friction with John Gruden in Tampa Bay. There was a ton of friction. And like, to your point, to Jeff's point, which is 100% true, there are two competing things. Bill wants to get wants to chase down Don Shula, and Jerry Jones wants to win a freaking Super Bowl. And he's shown that he can win a Super Bowl with somebody he hates in Jimmy Johnson, right? And so I think that it can work for like a small amount of time.
And it would be a short marriage.
Yeah.
For both, right?
It'll be a fling, right? A 2 or 3 year fling.
Yeah. Okay. So, I'll believe it when I see it.
Travis and Taylor.
I think what made Bill Belichick work was Bob Kraft was happy to sit back and let him be the guy, let him do the thing, and I think Jerry Jones will drive him absolutely batshit crazy.
But if you're Belichick,
Jerry Jones on the radio show twice a week. Jerry Jones after the game critiquing Bill, like they don't come out, they win, they start 2-2, which is a Patriot hallmark. And Jerry Jones standing in the hallway talking about, our defense has to play better, and Bill's not going to lose his mind.
Yeah, that Micah podcast, Micah Parsons podcast is going to get shut down real fast.
Yeah,
I promise you that.
But part of the reason that Bill got flat, like he got soft in a lot of those areas. Like he hasn't been able to draft his way out of a paper bag for a decade. Like part of the reason that the Patriots are in the position that they're in, which is a bad position, is that Bill got, was allowed to do path of least resistance in a lot of ways.
Okay. We'll find out. Does Mike McCarthy belong in coaching? Do you think that there's a spot for him? I heard some folks in Seattle say there could be a fit for him in Seattle. Is Mike McCarthy, should he be coaching in the NFL after going 36-15 in the regular season, Jeff, over the last 3 years?
Yeah. I mean, he and John Schneider are really tight, the Seahawks GM. So there's, look, if you're talking about him or Dan Quinn right now, that's probably 50-50 about who looks better going up there.
How about both? How about you can have them both?
Tandem deal. Yeah. No, he deserves to be. Look, it's not many coaches get 3 chances, but who was the guy who Mike Mularkey got 3 shots to be a head coach? I imagine Mike McCarthy could pull that off. But yeah, I think he's a good coach. But Tony Dungy was a really good coach in Tampa, and he had to leave because he couldn't get them to the next level. Like that's
Andy
what Mike
Reid
McCarthy is with Dallas. Yeah.
Yeah, but
Andy Reid in Philly, yeah.
They also changed the quarterback in Tampa, right? Like when Tony Dungy left. And by the way,
Brad Johnson was the quarterback, and then he was the quarterback for Gruden.
Was he there the last when Tony Dungy left? Okay.
Yeah.
He also got to the Colts and managed to win one whole championship with Peyton Manning. So I don't know that it was all solved with Tony Dungy when he got there. Listen, I'm not here to tell you that Mike McCarthy is one of the best coaches in the NFL. He's one of the better coaches, but I'm not here to say, oh my God, he's the best. But you can win a championship if you got a great quarterback in Mike McCarthy. I mean, that was proven with Aaron Rodgers, and then he lost his, whatever. But I don't think Geno Smith plus Mike McCarthy equals title. Right.
Well, the problem for Mike McCarthy has all the coaches that are out there right now make him look. It hurts his brand right now with the Cowboys after that loss. When you've got all these coaches out there you could have who won championships or done better than him more recently,
or are younger and like more exciting than him. Like,
and we'll sell more tickets. We'll generate more revenue too for a franchise if you go get them. We're proudly brought to you by our friends at Gann Asphalt and Concrete, best in the business when it comes to solving any and all of your parking lot problems with free consultations, no commissions, in-house crews. Plus, every single project comes with a written warranty. Gann Asphalt keeps your parking lot safer, helps you and your business avoid unnecessary delays and costly expenses. Tell them you heard about them here on the 2 Deep NFL podcast. Find them online at GannAsphalt.com or call 816-484-3338. Gann Asphalt and Concrete. One contractor, all things parking lots. Jordan Love, you were bullish on the Packers. He delivered in a big way. Eric, time to call him a franchise quarterback. And how much money did he make himself with just that one win? I mean, they were trending towards needing to pay him, but I think if you're his agent now, you're ready to stand your ground. And it is Daniel Jones type money you're going to be asking for, isn't it?
Oh, more than that. Because like when Daniel Jones won the Vikings game, it was like he was running sweeps, right? Like it was different. Like when Jordan Love's like dropping back and throwing like lasers off his back foot on the post to guys named Dontavion Wicks, like I think it's different. Look, like I think with both Stroud and Love, you see the traits of great quarterback play, which is like athleticism, arm strength, size. And when you see them actually accomplish those things on the NFL field, they're not out of the woods. Obviously, we've seen it with Wentz. We've seen it with guys like, Lawrence, for example. So, it's a bridge too far to say that they're absolutely 100% top tier guys. But I would be willing to bet on, Jordan Love that he's going to be one of those quarterbacks that we talk about, in that Herbert, kind of Burrow kind of group moving forward here. Yeah. Great development for Green Bay.
Jeff, a couple of interesting points. Kevin DeTrucker says no franchise quarterbacks. No, franchise quarterbacks are not 7 seeds.
Okay.
I will point out
Aaron Rodgers was a 6 seed.
He won a Super Bowl from a 6 seed.
Yeah.
And I will point out the Green Bay Packers have the youngest roster in football. So, that is the youngest roster in football. And here they are already in the playoffs. So he did something along the way. I'll give that one to you. And then I like this one a lot. I think Brett makes a great point. He said Packers completely missed the rookie deal window because of Rodgers. I mean, a little bit, don't the Packers? I mean, yes, they're going to pay him. We all agree it's just going to be about how much it ultimately takes. But aren't you a little bit being like, why didn't we kick that pain in the ass out of Green Bay a lot sooner and get on with this kid? Because you did miss the rookie contract window, which is golden for winning Super Bowls.
Yeah. Well, they should have traded him. So there's a couple things. A, we don't know how long it would have taken Jordan Love, right? Like I still remember, but
we know he got there.
Right.
We now know he had the ability and he got there.
True. I mean, I still remember because, obviously in Sumer, like our like investments, like we had, Packers and we had, Packers and best ball and stuff. Like I still remember vividly him throwing game-losing interceptions, multiple to the Raiders on Monday Night Football. Like we're talking about a half a season, thing here. So, who knows when he would have actually, actually become it. But to your point, like the one big thing, and the thing that I noticed when I watched him play in his brief time, he plays within the structure of the offense, right? Yeah. He does what's told of him. And the Rodgers had 2 MVP seasons, but the 2020 season was much, much, much better than the 2021 season. And the biggest difference between the 2020 season and the 21 season was he did very little freelancing. He threw what was called. He did it on rhythm. And the 21 season, he wavered on that a little bit. And I think that remember when the trade stuff happened the week of the draft of 2021, they should have just traded him then. And that would have been the right thing to do, just because, just like what we're talking about here, once you start talking about firing a head coach, you probably should just fire him. Once your quarterback is like, I don't know if I want to do a dark, like, you know what I mean? Like it's time, you know what I mean? Especially with a guy like that. And so I do agree. I think they missed, I think that they could have been quicker on this. And I know that that's with the benefit of hindsight, but given that we know what we know now, they should have moved on from Rodgers more quickly.
Yeah, but they would have gotten. I will defend Brian Gutekunst in that he would have gotten killed if he had traded Aaron Rodgers off of the MVP season. Like there was no way that was going to happen. In the way Green Bay works, people forget that when Aaron Rodgers came in, Brett Favre could have set half the town on fire and still been beloved. And so Aaron Rodgers had a lot more goodwill. I promise you that this past week, Brian Gutekunst is probably crip walking around Lambeau Field with the way that Jordan Love won that game and Aaron Rodgers out there feuding with Jimmy Kimmel and revisiting conspiracy theories. He's like, this is what I've been dealing with. Now you can finally see it up front, up close and personal. But they had to know Jordan Love could play before they could make that move. So I don't think it's as simple as just saying, well, he's great now. Yeah, someone said if he had been 5-12, we might be talking about Justin Fields right now.
A couple of things. One, it proves that the Packers didn't know what they had, right? Yeah. They believed in some of the talent, but they didn't really know what they had. And to a degree, you never really do till you get the guy out there. But you made that pick. And their screw up was they made that pick, and they didn't make that. Aaron Rodgers was already driving them crazy, right? He was already a pain in the ass. They didn't make that pick because they loved everything about Aaron Rodgers, right? They made that pick because he was already starting to piss them off. Yep. Right? And once you did, kind of like to Eric's point, you're already there, right? You're already on the idea that you're going to go. You want to do the apprenticeship year? You do the apprenticeship year and you move on. Alex Smith had the best season of his career his last year in Kansas City, and the Chiefs moved him. I get it. Alex Smith is not Aaron Rodgers. But they moved a guy, and there were people who said Patrick Mahomes was going to be a bust. There were people that said this is ridiculous to move on from a proven commodity in Alex Smith. Yet they did it. They had a plan. They stuck to it. They moved forward. Andy Reid walked on Donovan McNabb when Donovan McNabb was still playing at a very high level. And everybody said, where are you going? What are you doing with this? To Kevin Cobb he was headed towards, because that's where it was. They had made their decision. This is the way to go. And I am a believer that there isn't that, like, the road does not have tons of guys that could have been great, but they were in the wrong situation. I think that's BS. I think if you can ball, you will make it. It might take you a little longer. It might not be as shiny as it would be if you were the great coach, but if you can play, you can play. Jordan Love can play. He would have made it through. He would have got out the other end. And I think Brett makes a great point. The Packers, like, we all know how important that rookie contract window is. And they pissed it all away because they tried to play both sides. I disagree.
But what they got? Let's not forget that they went to 3 NFC title games with Rodgers. Was it 3 in a row? Well, he was
No, it was
just
2.
It
was 2020 and 2020. Whoa, no, they just had the 19 and 20.
They went to 3. I thought they went to 3 with him. 3.
They only had one after they drafted
Niners.
Love. Only one after they drafted Love.
Yeah, okay. One after Love. And so, to me, no. Once you make that decision and you go grab a quarterback, it's time to move on. Is it reality check time with Tua? Tua ain't going to be a franchise quarterback, Jeff. Can we at least say that okay, he's a game manager and that's it?
Well, it depends on how you want to define the franchise quarterback. I mean, there's plenty of franchise quarterbacks that are, like Kirk Cousins level, for example, right? And you could be at that level and be successful. The price tag was high back when he showed up there, but now it's pretty reasonable. But I would not pay him $50 million a year. And if the Miami Dolphins do that, they're crazy, because I've seen enough. Great, he made the Pro Bowl. Great, he had a career year. Great, he stayed healthy. But this is no longer about whether he can actually play a full season. This is about whether he can actually win a championship, play against top teams in this league. And this past year, they had one win over a team with a winning record. And every other time you watched him playing, including this past weekend, he just went into a shell. And you just cannot be, it's look at the guys who are making $50 million a year. It's Aaron Rodgers, it's Justin Herbert, it's Josh Allen, not Josh Allen, Joe Burrow, Mahomes, Lamar Jackson, Jalen Hurts. 5 of those guys have either won an MVP or taken their team to a Super Bowl, right? He's not in that classification. Justin Herbert's the only outlier. Justin Herbert has had a way better career to this date than Tua Tagovailoa. I think Tua and Trevor Lawrence are the biggest, could be the next Carson Wentz and Jared Goff.
Oh, really? Okay. Yeah. Go. Well, Jared Goff, it's turned out okay.
Well, I mean, just signing the big deal and having to move on from him. I'm not saying Tua can't play. I'm just saying that I don't think he's going to give the Dolphins what they want if they give him big money. Are
enough precincts, in for you on Tua that you can say he's not a franchise quarterback, Eric?
Yeah. Right. Like and again, like we all evolve as like analysts and stuff. Like to me, you need to be able to be more stable and resilient to injuries. You need to be able to be more stable and resilient to weather. You need to be more stable and resilient to things like that. And he's just not. And that's good. Comes down to like arm strength. That comes down to size. That comes down to a lot of stuff. And, he wasn't good before McDaniel got there. He's really good at the stuff that's schemed up the 10 to 19 range. He's got like a huge passer rating on plays in that range. And when Spagnuolo took that stuff away, that's part of like my tweet the other day where I was like, great teams, we've had to deal with this in Kansas City. They spend the whole season working through their weaknesses, and the good teams hide them, right? And so when Spags takes away the middle of the field, Tua has no clue what to do. Like, I need a quarterback that can do something, like can extend plays and can do things that are not called, and he just can't. And so he's the next. I agree with Jeff, but like let another team Jared Goff Tua before you do Miami. Because I like Goff.
Say that again.
Goff's great for Detroit, but like let another team
move him on before you pay him.
Yeah.
Okay. I see what you're saying. Yeah. I do agree. I think Tua was run down way too much, like early on in his career. I don't think everyone's like, oh, he sucks, get rid of him. He doesn't suck, but he's a game manager, and if you put talent around him, I think one of the things that, like, if I'm the Miami Dolphins, I'm sitting here going, I think we've got to load up Ram style, because we can't go on the road. Like, first of all, knocking a guy that he can't play in weather because of what he had to. I'm sorry, -4 to -10. There's only a
handful. It didn't affect Mahomes all that much.
You're right. He's not Mahomes. I didn't know that was the debate.
But it wouldn't affect Jordan Love that much either. Like, it wouldn't affect a quarterback with real physical gifts.
I'm fine with that. Yes. And I think that's why Miami has to decide that no matter what, we have to play at home.
But that's why I'm knocking him. I'm knocking him because he's not like I reserve those $50 million contracts for the very, very best quarterbacks. And those guys have to be efficient like Tua is, which he is, but they also have to have the physical gifts to withstand the stuff, right? And that's what Tua lacks. I'm just explaining. I'm not running him down for not being good in weather. I'm saying the reason he's not good in weather is because he lacks the physical gifts to be a quarterback that you buy into at that dollar.
And the other part of this too is if you're Miami, you have to be looking across the AFC and saying, can our guy beat these other guys? Not just Mahomes or Josh Allen, Joe Burrow. Now CJ Stroud's in the picture. Now Lamar's got 2 MVPs. Now you're talking about having to go through a gauntlet of quarterbacks to win a championship.
Well, and this is, I think you're right. And this is the spot that they're in is like with Tua is, no, first of all, I know you don't think you're arguing here, but no one's disagreeing with you on not paying Tua, right? I think we all are at that point. Question is then how do you move forward? And this is the part, like we saw Tyreek Hill not get through the season unscathed. Like he made the only play for them in the playoff game, but he also had to miss a game, right? They went to him. Like all of a sudden, look, Tyreek Hill's what? Is he 30 this year?
Yeah.
So he's amazing, and I think he's going to be. He can lose a step and still be really effective. So I don't think he's going anywhere. But Father Time will catch up to him, and injuries will catch up to him. Like the plan was these 2 years, but unfortunately, Tua couldn't stay healthy the first year, and their defense couldn't stay healthy the second year. Like I don't think there's anything wrong with what Miami's done the last 2 years. It just shows how hard it is when you don't have that guy that can pick you up and carry you. They had all the pieces they needed, I think, to make the Joe Flacco run to a championship. But they needed us to have a magic year where everybody stayed healthy, play the games in South Beach. They had to go to Buffalo last year. They had to go to Kansas City this year, and it wasn't going to work. And valiant effort, nice try, and really what they ought to do, and nobody will want to hear this, Miami, because they think they're close. Blow it up. That's what they ought to do, because in all likelihood, if you pay him, you're screwed.
Wow.
If you don't pay him, who are you going to get? And it's going to be diminishing returns on the players you got around him.
Well, the Rams have had success. It's funny, like one of my friends who's a professional, he messaged me, he goes, the Rams went 10-7 without even trying this year. You know, when you have a great coach and, you know, you get the right players, you don't even have to have that great of a roster in some cases. But like, I would say you have to do what the Chiefs did with Alex Smith, right? And you know, the good thing about the Chiefs was they had Alex Smith was around long enough where they never really had to play their hands because Tua's on a rookie deal. You kind of show your hands this year where you in the draft, like you call a team, you're trading up, right? And so if they trade up to 3 or let's say they go for Bo Nix or Michael Penix or something, like they're going to have to pay a premium for that, which to your point is going to be expensive, but that's kind of what they have to do. There's too much talent on that roster to just blow it up completely. And it's going to be a hard sell for McDaniel, who I think McDaniel could go to another team and get quite a bit more money. So like that's where I get a little bit worried about just simply blowing it up, but blowing it up is better than paying Tua, to your point.
Yeah. That's the bigger overall picture I was talking about. All right, let's talk about the Texans Cinderella story. Will it continue, Jeff?
I don't see it continuing in Baltimore, but I like the story. It's a great story so far. I just won't read the last chapter. I think it's going to be an ugly final chapter, but I have to look. I watched CJ Stroud a lot in college, being a Michigan guy and seeing him at Ohio State. He is light years away from where he was, when he was in college. And the things he's doing, the off-platform stuff, the moving around, he always had great touch and feel and all that stuff that, pocket passers have. But just the way the things he's doing now at this level is just, it's mind-blowing. And so I love that about him. I love that the Texans were willing to take a chance and make that trade to pick up Will Anderson to add a piece, to get 2 foundational pieces in the draft. They took heat for it. I know Eric doesn't like it, but I think when you're a young team and you got to make moves to become a player, a real player. You have to do that. And then they've been tremendous with the roster. There's a lot of guys on there no one knows about, including Steven Nelson, formerly of the Chiefs, way back when, who were playing at a high level. The Jonathan Gennards, the Nico Collins, the Tank Dells, all those people have done it for them. So they've built a culture pretty quickly, but they're not going to Baltimore and winning. I promise you that. Like the Ravens, remember 2019, they learned a lot. Lamar Jackson is a much better player now. That defense is real. It might be a 14, 17-point win for Ravens.
Where do you sit, Eric?
Stroud's awesome. I mean, the release that he has, the confidence that he has. I think Slowick did a really good job on this week, of not running the ball in early downs and putting him in rough spots. I think the only time that Stroud really struggled this year was when he faced a lot of third and longs. So, Stroud's so aesthetically pleasing as a quarterback. The release is so pretty, and I like the fact that he's kind of a throwback too, where he'll go down the field, and I like that a lot. Now, the Texans are getting bet this week, and a lot of that is because of Marlon Humphrey's status. Marcus Williams has struggled to stay in games, although Geno Stone, who's a guy that I really like coming out of Iowa, he's had 6 or 7 picks as their third safety. I sort of agree with Jeff. I don't think they really have the horses. If you look at their injury report too, I don't think Houston has the horses to keep this one close.
Yeah, I would tend to agree that this is just a little bit too much for them this fast. I love CJ Stroud. He does things that, Patrick Mahomes does. I'm not saying he's Patrick Mahomes, but he's the first guy. Joe Burrow's tremendous, right? But Joe Burrow's more Joe Montana than he is, which is a great quarterback, obviously. And I think he'll get his championship at some point. But CJ Stroud's the first guy to do things where you're like, how did he get that ball out there? How did he even see the guy? You see the behind. Now they got so many cameras on the playoff games, and you see behind him. It's he can't even see the receiver when he's letting go of the ball, and he drops it right in there. He has wow moments as a quarterback. That is amazing. I agree. It ends here. I think this is as far as they can go. I think they'll probably keep it a game in the half. Maybe be trailing, you get a score to cut it to 27-17, and okay, we got a game here, or a score to cut it to 27-19, and all right, they're a touchdown and a 2 away or something. But in the end, I think it's too much Ravens. But I mean, Eric, how surprised are you that the Texans organization, which you called a church, or a Christian team, by the way, CJ Stroud is giving a lot of praise to his Lord and Savior. He seems to fit with that culture, which is amazing, which is fine. I have no problem with that. But that fits with their culture, and all the reports are they wanted the other guy. They wanted Bryce Young and settled for him. How could they have wanted Bryce Young? He's seems like exactly what they would have wanted.
Well, a couple things. Yeah. The Nick Caserio, Jack Easterby, who, is now gone. They laid the foundation in a sort of this weird way where they're one of the 5th oldest teams in football, or oldest defenses. I can't remember which one, but they got the Steven Nelsons, the Jerry Hugheses, the Jimmy Wards, the Desmond Kings. They built the roster of 5 out of 10s all around, and then what they picked their spots. Now Tunsil was already there, but Will Anderson, Stingley, Stroud, and then they hit on Nico Collins and Tank Dell. And then all of a sudden and then they got Dalton Schultz. But Dalton Schultz is another one of those kind of mid-tier players. And then D'Amico's an underrated defensive play caller, I think. And Bobby Sloak's done a really good job. So look, when you pick in the top 5 and you get a quarterback in the top 5, a defensive end in the top 5, and a corner in the top 5, and then you hit on some wide receivers, it's pretty hard to fail in the NFL.
The 2D podcast is proudly brought to you by Gann Asphalt and Concrete, nationally recognized full-service paving and pavement maintenance contractor. Parking lot problems, not a problem anymore. They've been making them disappear since 1994. Don't risk accidents and liability in your lot. Get your parking lot restriped today. Brightly striped lot will cut down on accidents and keep your parking lot safe. Find them online at GannAsphalt.com. Your Detroit Lions, are we We
Who are you talking to? Me or Eric?
You, Jeff.
Okay.
The guy who really was a Lions fan as a kid growing up. Are we talking about a run all the way to the Super Bowl?
You know what? Things are falling into place for the Lions for once. It's somebody who's watched this team for my entire life. I can honestly tell you they've never had this much good luck, good fortune happen for them. When they ended up blowing that game in Dallas a couple of weeks ago and had the 3 seed to the 2 seed, I thought, man, it's a tough way for it to end. They have to go back to Dallas, divisional round, and lose. But Dallas is gone now. They got the big show coming in with the Bucs. A better Bucs team than I think people want to give them credit for, but still a very beatable Bucs team playing at home again. In a one-game scenario with the Niners, I like their odds. If you're talking about catching the Niners this round, I think it'd be tougher. But going out there, I don't think they fear them. I think it helps that they came to Kansas City in the first week and played the Chiefs in a nationally televised game. They're physical. They're playing a little better defensively, although they gave a ton of yards throwing the ball to Matthew Stafford last week. But they've got a lot of pieces in place to do some damage. And really, Jared Goff versus Brock Purdy, kind of advantage Goff, right?
Oh, wow. Really?
I think it's advantage Goff.
That's the story of the
Purdy,
world.
the MVP candidate.
Yeah, I'm just saying, having played in these big games, Jared Goff's played in a Super Bowl.
Experience-wise,
right?
He's a February guy, as my friend Dave Safara would say.
Yeah. So I like their odds. They got a shot.
Where are you on the Lions, Eric?
Yeah, I mean, by the way, it was really fun. I went.
You were at the game. If people don't know, that's what.
Yeah, I went to the first time the Bengals won a playoff game in 30 years, and the first time the Lions won one in 32 years. Only the second playoff win since 1957. That place is electric. They're behind Jared Goff, which I think is really fun given his career. I have issues with their defense against the Niners, but look, like the Packers could beat the 49ers and then they could host another playoff game. So like to Jeff's point, if you would have told them at the start of the season, you're going to be a touchdown favorite in the divisional round to go to the conference championship game, they would have taken that in a heartbeat, right? As a franchise that hasn't been, won a playoff game in 32 years. So yeah. And they're relatively healthy. Alex Anzalone got hurt the other day. Hopefully I got to look at, I haven't looked, but I know he got hurt in that game, but for the most part, hopefully Khalif Raymond comes back. It looked like the Laporta, played pretty well. It wasn't restricted after the injury in week 18. So yeah, I mean, anything could happen really. And, I think the Packers coming into Ford Field after beating the Niners would be a formidable opponent, obviously. But it could work out okay for them.
Yeah. You can't deny the path is set. By the way, I would say that Todd Bowles, the Jets, still think they got it right in making that move. It seems like Baker Mayfield. It's not Tom Brady. Yeah. He's riding. He went with Baker Mayfield. So maybe the Jets ought to look into something. But yeah, I think things look pretty good for the Lions right now. They're on a roll. Tough game if they got to go to the Niners. Better win this one. Yeah. Better win this one because it's set up for you to be playing in the conference championship game, and that would be a big step for them. No turnovers for Josh Allen. Does this mean he's finally gotten past that? And could we see Josh Allen, not Lamar Jackson? Like if we get that for a conference championship game, one of those guys is finally going to get a monkey off their back. Both of them may have to go through Patrick Mahomes if Josh Allen can't do the work for Lamar Jackson here. But the turnovers, that's the big thing with Josh Allen. Do we think, the Chiefs are a great defensive team, but they don't take the ball away that much? What do you think on the on Josh Allen's chances of not turning the ball over?
I feel like Josh Allen, we discussed this on a previous podcast, Red, Bold, and Gold. Josh Allen has so much respect and probably a little bit of fear of what Patrick Mahomes can do if he melts down, that in some ways that helps him play better when he plays against the Chiefs. Like you see him against the Dolphins, the Jets, or teams where you look at it. I think he looks at those quarterbacks of those teams. It'd be a great. Eric can get on his computer. Sometimes I feel like Eric's like playing Galaga over there instead of looking at, looking at real numbers. He's got
I'm looking at. I'm actually looking at
or something. But look at the way he plays against lesser quarterbacks. I guarantee you, most of his bad turnover games come against teams that have lesser quarterbacks playing across from them. When it's a guy he knows can beat him, I think he's a much better quarterback. So, yeah, I think it's always going to be on the table with him. But I think against the Chiefs, I think he's more likely to play clean football.
Well, I can confirm he sucked against Zach Wilson. This year. Eric,
Exhibit A.
Yeah, Exhibit A. What do you think?
Yeah, I think that the Bills are a formidable bunch. I said this on the Red Gold and Bold show, though. Gabe Davis was the 4-touchdown guy in the last playoff game. He was inactive last week. Rasul Douglas is the guy they brought over from Green Bay, which is funny, right? The Packers were so in the tank that they traded one of their best defensive backs in the middle of the year, than Jordan Love, to the point that the Packers didn't even know what they had. They were tanking mid-season by trading Rasul Douglas to the Bills. He was out. I think that this is more of an uphill battle for Josh Allen than people think. But to Jeff's, he doesn't play poorly against Mahomes. It's always the other parts of the team that let the Bills down when Allen plays, and when those, and he's had success against Patrick. He's beat him 3 times in the regular season. So I'm intrigued by this week's game. I'm excited for it.
Yeah, I think it's a great game, but at some point he's got to scale Everest, and I think both the Bills and Ravens, you can make a case, are going to be like anybody but these guys, and now they get to go against these guys. I also think sometimes you got to face your biggest fear, right, to become all you can be, and so this might be what brings the best of the Buffalo Bills out, and maybe the injuries that they've had along the way are what brings the best of the Buffalo Bills out. Everybody knows they got to play because they're down some guys talent-wise. Let's talk a little bit about Nick Sirianni. Should he be out in Philadelphia, Jeff? Is the collapse at the end too much?
No. First of all, no. I get that it's Philadelphia and everybody is up in arms and the fans go nuts and everybody gets, starts foaming at the mouth for the chance to take down another coach. This team had 4 wins before Nick Sirianni showed up 3 years ago. They won 9 games the first year, got in the playoffs. They made the Super Bowl the second year. And they still won. I know it was an epic meltdown. They won 11 games this year. Like someone said, Brian Daboll could end up being the only coach in the NFC East who keeps his job, and he won 6 games this year. Like, what are we talking about here? And I understand that, it was ugly, and the playoff game was a mess and all this. If you're firing coaches a year removed from the Super Bowl for having winning records and not getting it done, what are you doing if you're Jeffrey Lurie? This is madness. The fact that it's gotten to this point, we're doing it because it's out there, but I feel like it's more about overreaction than it is about reality. This team held on to some older players too long, younger players on defense especially. All these guys they drafted from Georgia haven't grown up as fast as they needed to. Quarterback was banged up. A.J. Brown was doing A.J. Brown stuff, getting frustrated and going nuts. Some of this stuff can be fixed. They missed Shane Steichen and Jonathan Gannon, but to act like we talk about McCarthy getting fired, Sirianni getting fired, that's to me, that's I don't agree with it.
Eric?
Something like somebody's gonna.
That's the best. When Siri fires off, getting fired.
That's right. Siri was complaining about my rant.
Siri apologized.
Sirianni. No one's gonna laugh.
No, I get it. Yeah,
we
get
it. Yeah. Math humor.
Sirianni looked to his phone and asked who the defensive coordinator should be, and it spit out the wrong answer. I mean, the problem is both coordinators were much better than even we gave him credit for. Jonathan Gannon, I think, did a really good job in Arizona, despite the worst roster in all of football by a country mile. And I think that obviously, Steichen having that team at 9-8 with a bad roster and the rookie quarterback hurt all year. So having to rebound from that, they also got high on their own supply. They pushed all of the they do the whole Howie Roseman, Jeffrey Lurie, pay everybody up front, push all the cap money to the future stuff. And like, they're lucky that Jason Kelsey's retiring. They're lucky, like, because when these guys get old, like you got, like, it could get New Orleans Saints like if they're not careful. And so, they better stop doing the tush push. They better stop, getting Jalen Hurts banged up, because he looked slow from the first game of the season this year. And so whatever happens, and he was a phenomenal quarterback last year, and he was great at many times this year. But they got to figure out how to protect him, because they're committed to him not only for the length of the contract, but because of void years and stuff for like a decade. And so they better figure out why he looks 10 years older than he looked last year.
Yeah, I think that's an important equation. But by the way, I think that game was lost when the tush push failed on the 2-point.
Even that's not working anymore, right?
That was like the mental killer. Like that's a team that's just out of gas. And I think there is something to be said. Listen, even the Chiefs' little 5-year run, but the Patriots to just do it year after year after year. I think we saw the Eagles, like, it's a lot to play 3 extra games and then have the whole offseason and then have distractions and do all those things, then come back and be winning and then go for 17 games now. And it's a lot. It's hard. It's hard to keep that fire going. And I do wonder, though, I tend to agree with Eric, like, and, no, you can't fire this guy. Like, it's one of the reasons why, like, 36 wins in 3 years and you're firing Mike McCarthy? Like, really? I mean, then Andy Reid would have been gone in Kansas City, right? Along the way, depending upon what you think of what the quarterbacks were with Alex Smith. He wasn't getting over the hump 3 years into it. And the one thing that I think is different is Nick Sirianni is a red ass. Nick Sirianni talks smack to fans. Nick Sirianni in the Super Bowl, I've never been more impressed by a guy, Jalen Hurts, telling Sirianni basically to knock it off in the middle of the Super Bowl when he's talking trash to people. Like, if he's like that on the sideline when he's mic'd up and he knows people are watching, what do you think it's like in the meeting rooms? Like, what do you think it's like around there? Like, and do we know that he can go find assistant coaches, especially if he loses Johnson this hiring cycle? Like, that's the trick, right? It's like you're turning your coaching staff over. It's great when you got the whole band, but when you lose band members, can you find a new trombonist? I don't know.
Yeah.
And I don't know that he can.
Yeah, well, look what happened with Sean McDermott in Buffalo, who, once Brian Daboll left, he had to go through Ken Dorsey, and now they have Joe Brady. Now, Joe Brady has a show he can do it, has to sustain what he's done, but sometimes you have to go through that. But yeah, he can hire a coach. He hired Shane Steichen and Jonathan Gannon. Like, he hired 2 guys who are pretty good head coaches now. It's just, it's hard, but it's harder to keep restocking that. You're right. That's a point to make.
Yeah, I think you get removed from the assistant coach world too, though. When you become a head coach, you're up in the head coach world, and maybe you don't know who the best assistants are.
Well, what hurts him is that when you don't call the plays on offense or defense, people say, well, what do you really do? Right? You're like, what's your real skill here?
Right. What are you adding to the equation?
Yeah. The Herm Edwards conundrum, right?
Speaking about it, whether it's Eagles or anybody else, top 5 head coaching candidates. Eric, how would you rank the top 5?
Oh, good question. I mean, I think, it's so hard. I go with Mike. So Ben Johnson's first right now to me.
What? Over all these proven guys, you're taking Ben Johnson?
What has Bill Belichick proven the last without Tom Brady? That he can go 8-9? He hasn't won a ring with Vinny Testaverde. He hasn't won a ring with Mac Jones.
Okay. I stopped. Go ahead. Keep going.
So if I were hiring a head coach, it would be, so these are my top 5. Okay. Ben Johnson.
That was the assignment. Yeah.
Yeah. Mike McDonald, the DC for the Ravens, Bill Belichick, Jim Harbaugh, and Raheem Morris.
In that order.
No, Mike Vrabel.
That's the assignment.
Mike Vrabel is I'll give Mike Vrabel a year off so he can learn how to treat people. Right? Okay. Don't go running off your GM and then leave because you can't get along with the GM you just picked.
Can't fire Nick Sirianni, but Mike Vrabel needs a year off. Okay.
I mean, Raheem Morris like has been one of the low key more impressive assistant coaches in the NFL for a while.
It was a curveball. It was a good curveball. I didn't see Raheem Morris coming.
I didn't see him coming either. You want next? Or you want me to go next, Jeff?
I'll go next. Belichick, Harbaugh, Vrabel, Ben Johnson, Mike McDonald.
Hang on, because we're going to try.
Oh, you're writing this down?
Yeah. Belichick,
Harbaugh, Vrabel, Ben Johnson, Mike McDonald. Okay. And I'm going off the theory of if you want to win right now, these are the guys I would be hiring.
Okay. All right. So if you want to win right now, these are the guys you're hiring. I don't think anybody's looking to win 10 years from now, so I don't know that there's much of a difference there.
Well, rebuild. All
right. I will go Jim Harbaugh, number one, with a bullet. With a bullet. I don't even think it's close. I think.
Look at Eric over there.
I don't even think it's close. I think Eric's list, is fine, but I think Jim Harbaugh is number one. The guy took a 49er team to the Super Bowl. I mean, I think he'll burn out. Like, I don't think you're going to have him for 10 years, but I think if you want to win, Jim Harbaugh's the guy. Mike Vrabel's 2. He gets the head coaching part of the equation. Ben Johnson is 3. Lou Anarumo is 4.
Ooh.
And Bill Belichick is 5.
Wow. Lou Anarumo, why?
I think what he did defensively to Patrick Mahomes, I know this wasn't his best year, but what do you want to do? You just want to hire the hot guy? I mean, they've consistently he turned that defense around. I don't think the personnel's ever been exceptional. He's the one guy that's really given Patrick Mahomes fits. Second half of the AFC Championship game a couple of years ago.
He's the real Vic Fangio. Huh? Is that what you're saying?
The real Vic Fangio. That's right. Exactly what I'm saying. I'll throw Lou Anarumo in there.
I like Lou Anarumo.
I don't know enough about him, but just from a scheme, I think he gets that part of it. He's been around a successful program in Cincinnati. I'll tell you, I don't like having all this defense on the list. Like 3 guys defensively. Like my list would be Jim Harbaugh and whatever it takes. But that's where it'd go. Let's wrap with this. What are we looking for in the divisional playoffs? Jeff, you want to lead us off?
I'm looking to see if Lamar Jackson can get a big monkey off his back and get to an AFC Championship game. That's what I'm looking to see. I think he's got a great chance, but he's still got to go do it.
Eric?
Yeah, that one's the one for me. Yep. That's I can't wait for that game.
Lamar Jackson and the Texans. Well, you're going to it. That's why you can't wait. Not the best.
But
game.
Also, like I said, look, CJ Stroud is the most aesthetically pleasing quarterback that has entered the league since Patrick Mahomes. And and so I enjoy watching him play. And those two playing football on Saturday will be a delight.
Josh Allen, can he finally get over the hump of Patrick Mahomes and be there? He's at home, so there's no excuses about being on the road. I think it's Josh Allen and Lamar Jackson. That's what this playoffs is about. Like one of their asses damn well better be in the Super Bowl, and they better play well.
A lot of humping going on out there this weekend, huh?
Yeah. Did I say it again? Get over the hump.
Yeah.
Well, I mean, otherwise,
I agree with you. Yeah.
Stop talking about them as MVPs then.
Well,
that's
otherwise,
great
stop playing
game.
The season and just put the Chiefs in the Super Bowl every year.
It's Ravens Bills. That's a super intriguing championship game for all the reasons you just said.
I agree. Yeah. I agree. Somebody will finally get that monkey off their back. All right, that's going to do it for us. Enjoy the divisional round of the playoffs. Remember, we're always brought to you by Gann Asphalt and Concrete. One contractor, all things parking lot. You can find them online at GannAsphalt.com. For Jeff Chadiha from the NFL Network, Eric Eager from Sumer Sports, my name is Soren Petro saying thank you very much for joining us here on the Too Deep NFL Podcast.